You are listening to the Pregnancy Podcast with Vanessa Merton. Hello. Thank you for tuning into the Pregnancy Podcast. Today's episode is all about the Hepatitis B vaccine for your baby. As a quick reminder, there are only 3 days left to take advantage of 3 months of Pregnancy Podcast Premium and get a private bonus call with me. You get ad-free access to every episode, the complete archive, a copy of the Your Birth Plan book, and a private 30-minute call. I've had several calls over the past few days. I have some coming up in the coming weeks. I've discussed pregnancy questions, things ranging from complex, high-risk scenarios to simple questions about whether certain things are safe during pregnancy. I helped one listener revise her birth plan. We cut it down from 3 pages to 1 page and got her very clear on exactly what she wants and how to discuss it with her doctor. I really have enjoyed chatting one-on-one and working through things that are really your biggest struggles right now. The goal is to help you feel more confident and prepared for your baby. As a disclaimer, you know that I am not a doctor. I cannot give medical advice, but I am an expert at connecting you with evidence-based resources. And I've spent over the last decade helping tens of thousands of expecting parents navigate pregnancy and birth. You only have 3 days through October 31st, 2025 to take advantage of this offer. You get 3 months of ad-free listening, full archive access, the Your Birth Plan book, and we get to hop on a call and tackle whatever you're struggling with in your pregnancy, plan for your birth, or prepare for postpartum. Check it out at pregnancypodcast.com/premium. One of the first decisions you will make as a new parent is whether to vaccinate your newborn against hepatitis B. The first dose of this vaccine is recommended within 24 hours of birth, and most babies receive it before leaving the hospital. Hepatitis B is a serious viral infection that affects your liver. It can become chronic and over time lead to cirrhosis, liver failure, or cancer. Although the vaccine is very effective, many parents have questions about safety, the timing of administration, and whether it's truly necessary for newborns. Like all things, you have multiple options, including choosing to vaccinate, delaying the vaccine, or declining it. So in this episode, we will explore the evidence on the risks and benefits and give you all the information that you need so that you can make an informed decision and feel confident about your choice. You can find the full article and all of the resources for this episode at pregnancypodcast.com/hepb. 8 Sheep Organics has created the Pregnancy Survival Kit that's specially made to get you through your entire pregnancy as comfortably as possible. The Pregnancy Survival Kit includes a set of 4 handcrafted products that help with common pregnancy pains, like pregnancy insomnia, restless legs, lower back and hip pains, leg cramps, swollen and achy legs and feet, and stretch marks. For a limited time, get the Pregnancy Survival Kit at $30 off, get free shipping within the U.S., plus save an additional 10% when you go to pregnancypodcast.com/8sheep. Like all 8 Sheep products, the Survival Kit comes with a 100-day happiness guarantee. If you are not 100% happy with your purchase, simply send them an email and they will get you a refund, no questions asked. Save 10% on all 8 Sheep Organics products when you go to pregnancypodcast.com/8sheep. That's the number 8 and sheep like the animal. 8 Sheep. Today's episode comes from a request from a listener who's expecting her first baby and has questions about the hepatitis B vaccine. We went back and forth in a few emails. I'm going to keep her anonymous. We acknowledged that although this is standard in hospitals in the United States, there are some mixed opinions on whether it should be given to newborns. She requested more information about why it is recommended, the risks and benefits of newborns getting it versus the risks and benefits of parents declining it. So we will cover all of that in today's episode. Vaccines are complex and they are a very controversial topic that a lot of people have very strong opinions about. As a result, researching vaccines is very challenging, and it's very easy to come across information that appears unbiased, but ultimately pushes a pro or anti-vaccine agenda. While vaccines is a very broad topic, the episode today focuses specifically on the hepatitis B vaccine given at birth. In the United States, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices develops recommendations for vaccines. And these are based on a lot of factors, including how safe and effective a vaccine is, the severity of the disease that it prevents, and how common the disease is without vaccination. When determining the timing of vaccines, the advisory committee considers when a baby's immune system will respond most effectively while also ensuring protection as early as possible. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention then use these recommendations to create the official U.S. immunization schedules. These organizations focus on protecting public health at a national level. Their guidelines influence recommendations from professional bodies like the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. These recommendations, in turn, shape the advice that you receive from your doctor or midwife. Having a basic understanding of how these recommendations are developed will help you as you're having conversations with your doctor, your midwife, or your pediatrician about vaccines. I'd also like to acknowledge that recent comments from President Trump have raised questions about potential changes to vaccine policies, including the number and the combination of doses. Guidance has already changed for COVID-19 vaccines, and we may see recommendations for other vaccines change in the future. Typically, once a vaccine is added to the CDC schedule, it is universally recommended. So if a vaccine is removed from that schedule, then the attitudes of physicians may change. Anytime I'm evaluating a vaccine, whether for me or for one of my kids, I take a very systematic and evidence-based approach. My goal is to understand both the science, but also the context. So I start with questions like, what are the risks of the illness that the vaccine prevents? What's the history of the vaccine? What are the ingredients in it? And how effective is it? I also encourage you to consider personal factors. This includes questions like what the likelihood of exposure is where you live or places that you're planning to travel to. What is the overall health of your child if you're contemplating a vaccine for your child? And is the illness more common during certain seasons? That really applies more to the flu vaccine or RSV. Hepatitis B doesn't really change depending on what season it is. Answering these questions requires a lot of research and a lot of critical thinking. And I can tell you, researching vaccines can feel very overwhelming, even for me who spends a pile of time doing research. When you look at the CDC's vaccination schedule, which I will link to in the article for this episode, this includes a very long list of vaccines, and it can be daunting for new parents. Remember, there is a lot of nuance in vaccination decisions, and this does not have to be all or nothing. One way to make this more manageable is to evaluate vaccines individually, Focus on the vaccines that are recommended at your baby's upcoming pediatric appointment. If you follow this approach, this makes it much easier to look into vaccines because you're not doing it all at once. And the very first vaccine on your list would be hepatitis B because that is given shortly after birth. So what exactly is hepatitis B? Hepatitis refers to inflammation of the liver. And there's 3 main types of viral hepatitis, A, B, and C. Hepatitis B is caused by the hepatitis B virus. There's 2 types of infections. There is an acute infection that is short term. It usually lasts less than 6 months. If the immune system cannot fully clear the virus, the infection can become chronic. Chronic hepatitis B can lead to ongoing inflammation, and over time, that can cause scarring of the liver, which is known as cirrhosis, liver failure, or liver cancer. According to the CDC, up to 90% of infants that are infected with hepatitis B at birth develop chronic infection. There are treatments available to manage chronic hepatitis B, but there is currently no cure for this. Hepatitis B spreads through blood, semen, and other body fluids. Transmission of this is most commonly through sexual contact, sharing needles, or sharing personal items like toothbrushes or razors with someone who is infected. If a mother has hepatitis B, then they can pass the virus to their baby during birth. As a result, ACOG recommends universal screening for hepatitis B early in every pregnancy. The official recommendation for the hepatitis B vaccine from the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics is that all newborns receive the first dose of the hepatitis B vaccine within 24 hours of birth, followed by a second dose at 1 month and a third dose at 6 months. Let's talk about the hepatitis B vaccine. The FDA licenses 2 different Hep B vaccines that can be given to a newborn. We'll briefly talk about these. I will also link to the package insert. This is the official document from the manufacturer. It includes all of the results from clinical trials, details on possible side effects, adverse reactions, all of the ingredients, and many other details. Both vaccines are approved for use from birth through 19 years old, and they are given on a 3-dose series at birth and then 1 month and 6 months. The first option is Recombavax HB, that is manufactured by Merck. It was originally approved in 1986. This vaccine contains the hepatitis B surface antigen. It contains aluminum, trace amounts of yeast protein, and residual formaldehyde. The other option is Injerix B. This is produced by GlaxoSmithKline. It was approved in 1989. This includes also the hepatitis B surface antigen. It also contains aluminum, trace amounts of yeast protein, and then has sodium chloride, which makes the vaccine isotonic, and phosphate buffers, which help keep the vaccine's pH stable. I don't want to get too into the weeds here. In comparing these options, they're very similar. Both use aluminum in the same amounts as an adjuvant that's used to enhance the immune response. Although the aluminum compounds used by each manufacturer are slightly different, but again, same amounts, both contain trace amounts of yeast protein, neither have a preservative, and then the remaining ingredient differences are a result of the manufacturing process. Injerix includes sodium chloride and phosphate buffers, and Recombavax contains residual formaldehyde. Both of these options offer long-lasting protection and produce protective antibody levels in about 90 to 95% of healthy infants. With that being said, if you would like to dig into the package inserts and compare these further to decide if you would like one over the other, you would need to check with your pediatrician or the hospital where you plan to have your baby and find out if they carry your preferred brand. Choosing a specific brand of vaccine may make more sense when comparing vaccines for other illnesses. In the case of hepatitis B, these are very similar. If you choose to delay administration of the hepatitis B vaccine, there are 2 additional vaccine options that would be available after 6 weeks. These are combination vaccines, so they include hepatitis B along with immunization for other illnesses. This episode, we're really focusing on the vaccines available at birth. I will link to both options if you are considering delaying this vaccine and you want to look into these further. Pediatrics includes immunization for Hep B and also includes diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. That's separately usually given in a Tdap shot. Pertussis is whooping cough, which is the main reason that is given, and it also protects against polio. The other option is Vaxelis. That includes Hep B, DTaP, polio, and also Hib. That is a bacteria that can cause infections like meningitis. The next thing to look at would be risks and side effects. All vaccines can cause side effects, although most are mild and temporary. A severe allergic reaction is always a possibility, but that is very rare. The most commonly reported reactions for both of the hepatitis B vaccine options at birth include irritability, fever, diarrhea, fatigue or weakness, decreased appetite, runny nose, and pain and swelling at the injection site. In clinical trials, there were episodes of apnea, which is temporary pauses in breathing, that were observed in some premature infants after vaccination. As a result of that, if your baby is born prematurely, then your doctor would likely recommend waiting before given the first dose. Similarly, if your newborn weighs less than 2,000 grams, which is about 4.4 pounds, the hepatitis B vaccine is typically delayed for at least a month. When comparing these vaccines, the risks and side effects are really very similar between your 2 options. Now that you have a clearer understanding of hepatitis B and the vaccine, there's a few additional factors to consider as you are figuring out what is the best course of action for your baby. First is risk exposure. In some regions, like parts of Asia and sub-Saharan Africa, hepatitis B is endemic. That means that there is a large portion of the population that is chronically infected. In the United States and most other developed countries, Hep B is not endemic, and it occurs much less frequently. If you live in a country where Hep B is endemic, or you are planning to travel somewhere with much higher rates, that would be an additional factor to consider. The elephant in the room, kind of, when you're talking about the hepatitis B vaccine for a newborn, is that this is primarily transmitted through sexual contact or by sharing needles. And an argument against vaccinating at birth is that a newborn's risk of exposure is extremely low or non-existent. However, if a mother has hepatitis B, that changes the situation significantly. ACOG does recommend routine universal screening for hepatitis B early in pregnancy. Even with that early screening, it's technically possible that a mother could become infected later in pregnancy before giving birth. If a mother does not have a hepatitis B infection, the risk of transmitting the virus during delivery does not exist. For additional reassurance, you could potentially request a repeat test closer to your due date to confirm that you have not developed an asymptomatic infection that could be passed to your baby at birth. Another consideration for you is how vaccination policies can affect your family depending on where you live. In the United States, every state has legislation in place regarding vaccine requirements. And states enforce these laws by requiring proof of vaccination in order for children to attend public or even private daycare or school. In states that have vaccine mandates, a child may be denied entry into school if their vaccination records are not up to date. Currently, 29 states and Washington, D.C. allow exemptions for individuals with religious objections. 14 states permit exemptions for religious, personal, or philosophical reasons. 5 states do not allow any type of non-medical exemption. And depending on the state you live in, it may be difficult to get a medical exemption. In September of 2025, the governor of Florida announced that the state would eliminate vaccine mandates. So this is a situation that may be changing. I will include a link if you would like to view your state's specific requirements and whether or not there are exemptions available. In states like California, where vaccination requirements are very strict, you will have a difficult time enrolling your child in school if they are not up to date with the CDC vaccination schedule. Families that choose to homeschool are generally not impacted by these restrictions. I know sending your kid to school may be a little bit of a ways off, but this is a consideration. When it comes to the hepatitis B vaccine, or really any vaccine for your child, you have 3 options. You can decline it, you can move forward with it and have it given to your baby, or you can delay it. Remember that the public health guidelines are designed to protect the population as a whole. Your role as a parent is to make the best choice for your baby. The higher vaccination rates are, it does benefit the community through herd immunity, and for some families, that is an important factor. For others, the decision is much more personal. I know firsthand as a parent that vaccines can feel very intimidating, but I really encourage you to make a decision based on solid information rather than on fear, whether that's fear of possible vaccine risks or fear of the disease itself. The goal and all you can do as a parent is to make the best decision that you can with the information that you have right now. Your pediatrician is a great resource for questions or concerns about vaccines. Remember, this is not black and white. It's not that you are going to give your child all of the vaccines or none of the vaccines. You can take an individualized approach and do what feels right for your family. If you plan to follow an alternative schedule or delay certain vaccines, please confirm that your pediatrician will support that. Some providers may not work with families who choose to delay or decline vaccines. Others are much more flexible. The CDC vaccination schedule conveniently aligns with the timing of well baby visits during your child's first few years. If you're butting heads with your pediatrician at every single appointment with vaccines, that can be very frustrating. So you want to ensure that you're working with a pediatrician that's supportive of the decisions that you want to make as a parent. This is one of many decisions that you will make as a parent where you and your partner may not always agree. It's normal for something like this, especially when people have such strong opinions about vaccines, to create some tension, especially when this is a decision that you and your partner are both making because you care so deeply about what's best for your baby. I encourage you to keep open communication, to listen to each other's perspectives, and acknowledge where each of you are coming from. If you are having trouble reaching an agreement, I would recommend that you talk with your doctor, your midwife, or your pediatrician so that you can get additional information and guidance. Ultimately, it's about you and your partner coming together and making decisions that feel right for your family. To recap today's episode, we talked about the hepatitis B vaccine. I covered how vaccine recommendations come to be and the organizations that create these. I went through the systematic approach that I go through for evaluating. When evaluating a vaccine, whether it's for myself or my kids. I covered what hepatitis B is, the difference between an acute and a chronic infection, and how hepatitis B is transmitted. It spreads through blood, semen, and other bodily fluids. It is very rare that it would happen through saliva. So we're talking other fluids, like if you are giving birth, then it could be passed to your baby if you are positive for hepatitis B. Transmission is most commonly through sexual contact, sharing needles, or sharing personal items like toothbrushes or razors. I covered your options for the hepatitis B vaccine. Both of the vaccine options that are available for newborns are very similar. They've been approved and in use since the 80s. They contain very similar ingredients, have very similar side effects and risks. And then we also talked about some additional considerations to really think about risk exposure, to consider vaccine mandates if you live in a state where that could be a potential factor for you. And I wrapped up the episode talking about your options. Remember, you have 3 options. You can decline, you can move forward with it, or you can always delay it. That is a conversation that you should be having with your pediatrician if you have questions or if you would like to delay it. I would like to thank you for tuning into the Pregnancy Podcast today. I hope that you find this episode helpful. If you would like to submit a question for a future Q&A episode, please email me, vanessa@pregnancypodcast.com. You can read the full article and see all of the resources that accompany this episode at pregnancypodcast.com/hepb. There are only 3 days left to take advantage of getting 3 months of Pregnancy Podcast Premium and a private 30-minute call. So you'll get ad-free access to every episode, the whole archive, a copy of the Your Birth Plan book, and a call where we can talk about anything you're struggling with during your pregnancy. If you're running into issues with your doctor or midwife, we can talk about some ways to work through that. I'm happy to review your birth plan and help you get more clear on your preferences for that. Anything that you are struggling with, any questions you have, I would love to hop on a call with you and help you work through it. Of course, I am not a doctor. I cannot give medical advice, but I have spent over the last decade helping tens of thousands of expecting parents navigate pregnancy and birth. There's only 3 days left. This is only available through October 31st, 2025. Check it out at pregnancypodcast.com/premium. The Pregnancy Survival Kit from 8 Sheep Organics is specially made to get you through your whole pregnancy as comfortably as possible. It includes a set of 4 handcrafted products that help with stretch marks, common pregnancy pains like insomnia, restless legs, lower back and hip pains, leg cramps, and swollen and achy legs and feet. For a limited time, get it at $30 off, free shipping in the US, plus save an additional 10% when you go to pregnancypodcast.com/8sheep. All 8 Sheep products come with a 100-day happiness guarantee. Try it risk-free, and if you are not 100% happy with your purchase, simply send them an email and they will get you a refund, no questions asked. Save 10% when you go to pregnancypodcast.com/8sheep. That's the number 8 and sheep like the animal. 8 Sheep.